The president is going after Dr. Anthony Fauci like never before, calling him a disaster, referring to him and other health officials as idiots during a call with campaign staff, which he knew reporters were listening in on. About the coronavirus, Trump said this to his staff earlier today.
People are saying whatever, just leave us alone. They're tired of it. People are tired of hearing Fauci and all these idiots. Fauci's a nice guy. He's been here for 500 years. He's a disaster. I mean, this guy's, if I listened to him, we'd have 500,000 deaths.
Unsurprisingly, this came after a 60 Minutes interview with Dr. Fauci that aired last night, in which he was critical of the Trump administration's handling of the pandemic and said he was absolutely not surprised the president contracted COVID-19. Fauci also spoke of how the White House has controlled who in the media he can speak with and of the death threats against him and harassment of his family.
The very fact that a public health message to save lives triggers such venom and animosity to me that it results in real and credible threats to my life and my safety.
Have there been death threats against you and your family?
Yeah.
All of you? Your
No,
daughters?
just me, but harassment against the rest of the family.
I'm going to guess the president's latest tirade won't do much to help that, much like what he had to say about Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer over the weekend, just days after several people were arrested in a plot to kidnap and possibly even kill her.
You got to get your governor to open up your state, okay? Lock him. Lock them all up.
This, despite the disturbing details of the plot against Whitmer, including hand-drawn maps of the area around her home that appear to show the suspects training to storm the state capitol, and text messages in which one person suggests having someone go to the governor's house, knock on the door, and, quote, when she answers it, just cap her. I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I can't. And I don't think a lot of other people are either, at least those on the New York Times and Boston Globe editorial boards, which recently took the extraordinary steps of publishing major multi-part editorials coming at the issue from very different angles. In the Times, they put out an entire special section yesterday featuring a blistering editorial titled End Our National Crisis, the case against Donald Trump, along with several other essays and articles bolstering the argument. And in the Globe, their editorial board endorsed Joe Biden for president earlier this month, but went a big step further, making 12 cases for 12 different kinds of voters with a major multimedia layout. I'm joined now by the editorial page editors for both papers, Bina Venkataraman of the Boston Globe and Kathleen Kingsbury, acting editorial page editor at the Times, and also formerly of the Globe, where she won a Pulitzer Prize for distinguished editorial writing. Katie and Bina, it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Great to be here.
Katie, if I can start with you, a whole section, lies, anger, corruption, incompetence, chaos, decay, end our national crisis. And just to read two sentences, the first one, Donald Trump's re-election campaign poses the greatest threat to American democracy since the Second World War. Mr. Trump stands without any real rivals as the worst American president in modern history. Whole section, am I oversimplifying it by saying the guiding principle was that more is more?
No, I should clarify. We did endorse Joe Biden for president about 2 weeks ago. And in that endorsement, we actually did not use the current president's name. We really wanted to save our punches for this major section. We've been working on it for over 3 months now, compiling, really making a historical record for all voters to understand the damage, the lasting damage that this president has done to the nation in the last 4 years.
So, Bina, the decision, at least for yesterday, was a major effort to make the case against Donald Trump. Not too long ago, you put out a major effort in the case for Joe Biden, a different strategy to the same end. What was the guiding principle there?
So it wasn't the case that we did not make a case against Donald Trump. So that's a double negative.
I know that.
We actually, in making the 12 cases for 12 different voters, we compared the the president, we appealed to the former Trump voter, for example, indicating the ways that the president has lied to those voters about what he delivered, whether it's health care, whether it's jobs, whether it's making America great again, even just from multiple angles. But the reason that we went about approaching it that way is just to sort of interrogate our traditional format of editorials and ask ourselves, how do we really deal with the historical anomaly that is Donald Trump? We've been in our pages relentlessly going after the president's catastrophic policy when it comes to the pandemic, relentlessly going after the corruption of this White House on numerous levels, whether it's the way he uses Bill Barr's Justice Department as his personal law firm, or the way in which he allows his people who are his campaign financiers to get privileged information. But to actually build that into a case for an endorsement when none of our readers would be really surprised by the fact that we were going to come out in favor of Joe Biden based on our relentless criticism of this presidency, but to really have engage with readers who might be undecided, who might be unmotivated to vote, or who might have family members or friends. So we've been hearing a lot from people who have forwarded these cases to people they know who are disenchanted with the political process. We have a case for the disenchanted voter, which really makes the case of why it matters to vote, even amid confusion and disinformation.
Katie, both of your I'm sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
I was just going to jump in just because I think that what Bina is describing is exactly what we were thinking when we were putting together this package. For 4 years, we've cataloged the racism, xenophobia, divisive rhetoric of this administration. And we really felt, and we've seen that there are people that we could still reach. We've heard from many people in Trump country that, for instance, our piece by Michelle Cottle outlining corruption that many people just had forgotten. I mean, remember, this administration has been relentless in its corruption and its abuses of powers, and it's easy to forget the particulars. We really wanted to make sure that we reminded people of just what we actually have been living through since 2016.
But Katie, you made an interesting admission in the something that accompanied your Biden editorial, not the anti-Trump thing yesterday. You said something like, for our young readers, I hope I get this right, newspaper editorials may seem like a vestigial organ, sort of acknowledging that they may not have the impact they want to have. So it's a small slice of the readership that you're really going for, are you not?
Well, it's interesting. Something specifically that happened with the weekend package was that Fox News actually picked it up. They wrote a whole story about it. And in fact, they quoted from it liberally. And that actually ended up being one of the biggest referrers of traffic to our package. I think we have seen, as you are really getting at, Jim, the fact that increasingly people are polarized even in the media that they consume. And so we do have to rely on some of our more conservative media to help us get out the word. But yeah, you're getting at something specifically about editorials. I obviously love editorial writing. I've been doing it for many years now, and I think it's important. But I do think that, we have been making a concerted effort first at the Boston Globe and now at the New York Times in order to make editorials feel engaging and relevant to all of our readers.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. And I thought everything you've done on these issues, both of you, has been really powerful. But I'm sure you've only heard this 1,000 times, Bina. In 2016, of the major American newspapers, it was a mere 57-2 for Hillary Clinton. Now, one might argue the margin might have been even larger without, but it gets harder and harder to make the case that newspaper editorials do matter. Does it not?
I think if you're looking at the level of the presidency, it's harder to make the case that editorials really dictate how people vote. What I think they can do, and what the Times has done creatively with its package, what the Post with Amy Siskin's piece, if you saw that, cataloging in detail all the corruption of this administration, or what we've done with the 12 voters, what we can do is help clarify the issues for probably a smaller subset of voters, or we can animate people to understand why that is that this election is so important and why it matters to vote for a particular candidate at a time of cynicism and disengagement with politics, particularly from young voters. But at the city council level, at the governor level, at the level of ballot initiatives, we just came out with our endorsements on the 2 questions on the ballot. for Massachusetts voters, ranked choice voting and the right to repair. And there, I think, can have an enormous impact as an editorial board. And I also think that it makes a difference that we do get engaged with the endorsement process and meet with these candidates and vet them in a way that our readers won't have the opportunity to do themselves.
You know, Katie, one of the problems, I assume, for newspapers that have the positions that both of your editorial boards do is even if Donald Trump is gone on January 20th, his legacy in some cases will endure for decades. And what I'm primarily talking about is 200-plus federal judges, including one Supreme Court judge in her late 40s, two Supreme Court justices in their mid-50s. I haven't seen anything on either of their editorial page about expansion of the court. I know the Globe did something about lifetime tenure. Is that the next major front for newspaper editorial pages that are concerned about restoring balance in our democracy after January 20th if Joe Biden is president?
I think there are going to be so many questions if Joe Biden is elected president. The former vice president has not been particularly detailed in what his plans are for after inauguration. I mean, I think that is because he's out there trying to win an election. But I actually think, and I think Bina would agree with me, that there's going to be even more room for us to have influence if there is a Biden administration and to help the Democratic Party start to shape its agenda for what it needs to accomplish should it take the White House.
You know, Bina, maybe it's my personal obsession, but I have been one who has been against lifetime tenure and 4 term limits. Stephen Breyer said on the show a few years ago, term limits, or at least a limit on tenure, might make sense as long as it was long. Is that a major issue for you guys going forward, or is your spectrum of issues as broad as Katie is suggesting?
Well, it's both. 3 days after Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, we editorialized in favor of term limits of 18-year terms, you know, kind of staggering those terms so that different presidents get to nominate new justices, so there's renewal on the court. So we were absolutely in that. Several months ago, we did a big package about how Trump has remade the federal judiciary in his image on multiple levels, whether you look at the ideologues, conservative ideologues he's put in the federal courts, or the fact that they're very not diverse, mostly white men he's appointed to the courts across the district courts. So we are interested in the courts, but I would say that there's a number of our democratic institutions that are going to need to be restored. There's a number of policy areas, from climate change to racial justice, where there's a whole set of policies that could become possible, certainly with the Biden administration, and even more so if there's a Democratic Senate and an agenda that stems from the need for $1 trillion stimulus packages, which just creates a whole lot of opportunity for federal spending to have an impact on issues like infrastructure, transportation, climate resilience, and also how we remake cities.
Bina Venkataraman, Kathleen Kingsbury, thank you both for your work and for your time. I really appreciate it. It's good to see you both.
Great to see you both, too.
Thank you.
Be well.